Happy Thursday, everyone. Super excited to be here with you all tonight to officially kick off our first episode of Live with US Microsoft EDU. I'm Robyn Hrivnatz, one of your hosts for tonight and for future episodes down the road. We're looking forward to learning with you each episode, and really tonight the focus of our episode is why are we doing this episode? What will you see on future episodes? But before we continue moving on, I do want to introduce my fabulous co-host who will be here with us every couple of weeks on this show. So Scott, where are you, man?
Right here. How are you, Robyn? Great to see you.
Awesome. So Scott, do you want to just tell everybody a little bit about yourself real quick?
Absolutely. Super excited to be here and reiterate what Robyn said. We are super excited to share this show with you and talk all things education. So my name is Scott Bricker, and I'm the Director of Educational Technology at Santa Margarita Catholic High School in Southern California, a proud Microsoft Showcase school, and a member of the MIE expert community. And like I said, can't wait to be interacting with you all and seeing where this show takes us in the future.
Awesome. And just to tag along to that, I'm Robyn Hrivnatz. I am located here in Houston, Texas. Really excited to be here. I work here at Microsoft on our U.S. education team. I have the amazing opportunity to be able to support schools and teachers all across the country in the United States each and every day. Really get to see all the fabulous things that are going on in the classrooms, what amazing transformations are happening alongside the school districts. And then I also get to oversee our wonderful MIE expert community, as well as all of our showcase schools. So I couldn't be happier to be here with you all today. Prior to joining Microsoft, I also spent 14 years in public K-12 education. So I started my career off as an educator myself, and just really look forward to being with you guys.
So, Robyn, I know one of the things we wanted to talk about, and first of all, on social media, if you're interacting with us, and those of you who are watching on recorded version, please feel free to use the hashtag for the show, hashtag US Microsoft EDU Live. And I know one of the things we wanted to talk about off the top here is what you said in the very beginning, which is, why are we doing this show? So sort of maybe talk us through some of the goals that we had talked about in terms of what we want to get out of this show, what we want to reach, and who we want to speak with.
Yeah, absolutely. So for me, I got to talk to Scott, and we were talking about putting a show together for a long time now, and we're probably getting this and making it happen. But for me, I just wanted a space to be able to recognize and celebrate educators, celebrate amazing things that are happening in education. I think, a lot of times in education, some of the negative things may show up on the news or in the media, et cetera. The one thing that went wrong at a school for the day always seems to make the 6 o'clock local news. But I want to see the awesome things show up and be celebrated, because every single day there are epic things that are happening in classroom, lives are being changed. And I just wanted to provide a space to be able to celebrate educators for the work that they're doing, and also celebrate systems of innovation. So that's really what I'm looking forward to the show. I think it's also going to be a great platform for us to talk about trends in education, what people are trying, what's working, what's not. I don't think it's always about this one thing or this tool. There's no silver bullet in education, and we only learn from our mistakes and failures and trying new things. So really just looking to hear not only about successes, but challenges and struggles that people are having as well, and how they've overcome those things. But at the end of the day, like I said, this is really all about a celebration of education, or educators. And when I say educators, I mean everyone who spends time working with, whether it's students, whether it's adult learners, our school administrators, our superintendents, everybody that's a part of a school family to me as an educator, whether that's the cafeteria worker, the facilities management, or the nurse in the office, right? Everybody who is being part of the education system should be celebrated, and I just want to recognize all those people as part of the show.
Absolutely. And you want to take the last one?
Yeah,
and lastly, and again, echoing what Robyn has said about all the great things that are going on. And teachers are working harder than ever. And I know we're going to talk about that, not just this week, but in future episodes. but really using this show as a platform to give educators a voice to really share their experiences firsthand. We're going to do a lot of interviews and bring folks on to share not just necessarily tech tips. We do want to talk about, you know, the teams and the OneNote and all the great tools we're using, but really what are the creative outside of the box things teachers are doing? How are they assessing students? How are they developing professional development, building programs, maintaining high standards for SEL and all those sorts of things? So really using this show as a platform to give teachers that voice and really amplify that voice within our community and to educators all across the country.
Yep, it's all about education here. That's what you're going to hear. So if you have any concern, passion, interest in education, hearing from teachers, hearing from school leaders, hearing from students and what they're passionate about, this is the show where we'll talk about all those things. And yeah, we might bring some folks from around Microsoft in on occasion as well. If we've got some really new, cool things that come out and you want to hear more about or hear from an engineer, we can bring those guys on as guests too. But really the focus of the show is going to be about real life practitioners in the classroom, both in the K-12 and higher ed space.
And I would say too, obviously, as we always do, and Robyn, you've done such an amazing job leading our MIE expert community for so many years of this, but really we want to hear from the community and know if there's a teacher we should be featuring on the show or a topic. We certainly want to be, you know, listening to and being involved with our community of educators within the MIE expert and Showcase School family and elsewhere. But we certainly want to hear from everybody watching live and watching on demand or recorded version about who we should bring on the show, what we should talk about, and all those different topics that are in the air. So certainly feel free to reach out to us and let us know as the show goes on.
Absolutely. And you always can reach out to Scott or I either on our Twitter handles, or maybe you're following us here on LinkedIn, wherever is the most convenient for you. If it's on Facebook, don't hesitate to reach out to us. You'll see our handles are here below behind or beneath our pictures here, our talking face. I guess it's not a picture. It's a really live show. So real, it's happening. So definitely check us out or message us and let us know how we can amplify your voice, or if you want to be a future guest on one of our shows, we'd love to have you.
Absolutely.
So Scott,
go ahead.
I was just going to say, you know, it's definitely been a unique year for everybody. You know, we obviously back in January, we're all chugging along. So many of us were actually able to get together in person and spend some time actually on the Redmond Microsoft campus, which was really awesome. And the year was just really, you know, I thought, 2020 is going to be great. And then all of a sudden this thing happened in March where brakes put on. So it you know, caused us to wrap up our school year in a very different way. And here we are 6 months later, and, you know, most schools either have already started or are just starting even last week and this week. And we're seeing lots of different things all over the country on how that's happening and working. And I know you currently are in a school. Can you just kind of share a little bit about some of the experiences that you're having right now in this hybrid learning, distance learning, remote learning? We can pick a word out there to describe the situation, but would love just to hear from you and tell me about what's going on right now.
Yeah, I appreciate it. You said it. It's been an interesting 6 or 7 months, and the days seem to kind of run together. In some ways, it feels like it's only been a week or two, and in other respects, it feels like it's been, you know, years that we've been at it. I think from my own school perspective and the many conversations I have with educators and school leaders around the country, I think the thing that sums it up is that teachers are working harder than ever. They really are going the extra mile to, you know, redo lesson plans and in some cases learn technology, right? And we're going to highlight a couple things at the end of the show about some teachers that are you know, reaching out to help other teachers get along with the technology. But really, teachers are spending more hours than they ever have before. And the effort and energy and passion that is being poured into this profession that was certainly there before, no doubt about it. But even more so now to try and recreate the best education experience possible. It's been inspiring, really, on that level. On the flip side of that, there's also been tons of challenges. I mean, you look at, it's not ideal, right? Nobody's signed up for this. Nobody's ever opened a school in this manner, really, let alone schools everywhere across the country. So I think there's been plenty of challenges, and we're all very tired and and it's hard to to get going from one day to the next. So I think, again, celebrating all the effort that's being put into it, but also recognizing that, man, we've all had some tough days, and that's okay. And we're going to get through it. We're going to keep working, and we're going to progress through this and eventually get back to a new normal.
Yeah, no, I definitely agree. And I mean, kudos to every educator and school leader, superintendent that's having to make these tough decisions right now. The days blend into the nights, blend into the next days, and you're not quite sure what day of the week it is anymore. And having to juggle so many things between, your students that may be coming some days in person, or maybe that's every day for you. And then also stay in touch with your students who may be choosing to learn remotely. It's just like the day never ends. And then you yourself, and many teachers are parents and have children to raise themselves. And so having to do maybe some home learning with their own children in addition to all those things. So I kudos to every educator out there that's having to go through this right now. Our hearts are with you. We're, empathetic of the work that you're doing. And I know sometimes out there on social media, I'm seeing some things that parents are upset or angry. And I would just say, know that most of us understand the challenges you're going through, and it's okay. Take a deep breath. We're human. Everybody's, we're not perfect. Parents aren't perfect. No one is. So just know that we appreciate the work that you're doing. Your students appreciate that you are there for them, and we will get through this like anything else. And at Microsoft, we're here to support you guys. So if there's something that we can do to make your lives better, we're all about listening for feedback. So share feedback as often as you would like.
And share with each other, right, Robyn? I know you've seen it because you're so active on social media, but the level of sharing that's going on among educators, whether it's tech tips, classroom management, doesn't matter. The level of sharing has just really increased, and that's been fun to watch. The teachers are really seeing the power of collaborating, not just within their school building, but with teachers all across the country on Twitter and Facebook and all those things. So certainly, in addition to reaching out to Microsoft and all those folks, reach out to educators just in general and try and bring the whole education community together.
Yeah, and I know we have a lot of teachers listening live right now, and I would say if there's a tip that you can share to some other teachers right now in the chat window and let them know, maybe one small thing they can do to make their life easier. For me, it might just be take a deep breath, right? And it's okay to take a minute of your day and just breathe and focus on yourself, because we all need some self-care in all this. It's a challenge for sure. So definitely use that time, guys, right now. If you have some tips for people, drop it in that chat window. We want this to be a learning experience from you. And I promise this will be the only show that Scott and I will be talking the whole time. We look forward to every show bringing on educators, and you can hear from them and let them tell you their story and their voice. But with that, I just kind of wanted to ask Scott, what is your why in education? Why are you an educator? Why did you choose this career, this path? Why do you do what you do? And why do you want to be on the show and be my co-host? I mean, you're going to have to put up with me, I know, but.
Yeah, that's a tough job for sure. Not exactly. I think the biggest thing, and for me, it's kind of been 3 milestones in my life that really, or 3 maybe characteristics that have kind of led me to this passion for education. And it's been a journey. I haven't always loved it, but it's definitely at this point, it's who I am. I'm an educator. I want to be involved in education the rest of my life. It's definitely the thing I am most passionate about. And if I think back to my childhood, I was always kind of a curious kid. I kind of loved learning. I enjoyed school. I kind of figured out what school was all about. And so I was able to, find success and understand that it was a process and whatnot. So that curiosity was kind of the first thing about me that kind of pushed me forward. I didn't grow up wanting to be a teacher necessarily, although the second component where that kind of came about was high school. And I had 2 math teachers, one my junior year, one my senior year, Mr. Rothery for pre-calc and Mr. Jensen for calculus. I will never forget them as long as I live. Just really opened my eyes to how fun learning can be. And I know sometimes that word fun is kind of taboo in education, right? Like, oh, it shouldn't be fun. Like, this is serious business and we're getting ready for college. But when learning is fun, there are no boundaries. And so as I began to see that as a student, I wanted to recreate that. I wanted to get into teaching, and at the time I was playing basketball, so I wanted to be a coach and really really open doors for students and help them understand just how cool learning was and how much fun it is to just tinker with things and explore and gain knowledge and so forth. So that was that right then and there, kind of junior, senior year, led me to wanting to get into education. And then, went to college, majored in education, the whole deal, had a roundabout couple careers in between. But over the past, this is my 21st year in education now, which is still hard to think. That seems like a lot of years. But of late, the third milestone has been my boys, Grayson and Carter. And if any of you follow me on Facebook, you see pictures of them all the time. And I'm not saying you have to be a parent to be a great educator by any means, but certainly when you are, there's a different layer to it when you watch a kid learn from day one, right? And walk for the first time and gain language for the first time. And especially with Carter, our oldest, who's now in kindergarten this year, just to watch how much he loves learning. Again, back to that joy for learning. I just want to create that at every grade level. I want teachers to love teaching. I want students to love learning. I want administrators to love building communities. And just all those things together, kind of this snowball effect over the years, has really led me to where I am, and wanting to do this show with you, just in spreading that word, right? Like in really inspiring people to want to be more, to do more, to really change education for the better, and make an impact for the future of today's kids and for many generations to come.
That's awesome, Scott.
I appreciate it. And I know you have a story too. And I know you tell your story all the time and get a chance to, but I would love our listeners to kind of hear what led you to teaching in general, what led you to Microsoft, and just a bit about, your why in this whole thing as well.
Yeah, well, our stories may be a little bit of reverse order, if you would.
That's all right.
Yeah, and ultimately, I think the first thing that made me realize that I should be an educator, or I wanted to become an educator. Again, it wasn't something I grew up saying like, oh, one day I want to be a teacher. I know some people have that, and I think that's awesome. That wasn't necessarily me, but when I was in high school, especially, I just loved learning. Like, I couldn't get enough of learning new things, reading books, trying new classes, trying new activities, sports, hobbies, whatever. Just the constant what's new, that discovery motion. So I knew as a learner myself, I enjoyed learning. So a little bit of me always knew, like, if I could inspire that love of learning in somebody else, that would be awesome. But I didn't really know that my calling was to become a teacher, or, to go and, let's say, sign up to be an education for the next few years. Now, my junior year in high school, I ended up becoming a mom. And I had a teacher who was one of my high school teachers. She was also, one of our sponsors for our dance line. Her name was Miss D. And Miss D believed in me when so many people didn't. As a pregnant teenager, oftentimes, you would get that really unfortunate look. It wasn't way back in the 90s, so it wasn't cool to be on MTV yet. So I struggled, obviously, as a student in that regard, but Ms. D believed in me. She knew that was not going to be my defining moment in life, and that starting life as a mom early wasn't going to be a dictator for my future. And so she was the first person who encouraged me to really explore education, and said, I just see, you as a student and as a learner, I think you would be an amazing teacher and be able to shed that onto other people. So she was kind of the first person who really inspired me to say, maybe I should look into this education thing. And I'm really glad I did. So I did. I went, obviously, graduated from high school, moved on to college and majored in education. Finished up school, and when I was majoring in education, I also said, what, this whole technology thing, I think it's going to be the thing of the future.
You think?
About it. I did minor with some computer science as well, and so I'm not sure exactly where this is going to take me at some point in time, but I know that technology is where we're headed into the future. So I think it was a great marriage of, my love of education and learning, and then putting that together with some technology skills as well. And then I started my teaching career. And honestly, my second year of teaching, I was at a junior high school I was teaching at, And it was another teacher who inspired me to do the next thing. So I had an administrator. His name was Ron Beatty. And Ron, if you ever watch this, thank you. But Ron was someone who would, as my administrator, come in my classroom, make observations of my teaching and learning. And he, one day he called me in his office and he just said, "Hey, Robyn, I think you can, I love you as a teacher. You're doing great things with your students, but I really want other people to learn from you. I think you have a special gift to lead others." And so he kind of started guiding me in a direction of school leadership and, taking on new tasks locally at the school, new responsibilities, going to train the trainers and becoming a trainer of my peers. And so he was really kind of that person who led me down a leadership path, if you would. And so I spent many years in education, both as a classroom teacher and then multiple leader roles throughout the school district for many years. And then I ended up discovering Microsoft Education. And my story is kind of a little strange. I was sent to a Microsoft training event. This was back in 2010, before the MIE program even existed. It was kind of like the V1 of MIE. And I went to the program for the day, and I thought the Microsoft people had some really great things to offer, but they weren't quite sure how to speak to the audience of educators. And so I ended up connecting with the guy at Microsoft, and we stayed in touch for a long time. And I was like, "Hey, I'm happy to take some of the things you guys are doing. I think the pedagogy behind everything is spot on. You're looking at the right things. We're talking about global learning. The research that you're offering is amazing. It's just you're not reaching me as a teacher in the current capacity." And so I was able to work with them, starting then, just really providing some feedback and consulting, if you would, and sharing with them. And then who knew, I had no intention of leaving the classroom or leaving my school district. And 4 years later, there was this job that came up, and my manager at the time, who ended up hiring me, I met her at ISTE. Actually met her on Twitter. She had just got hired at Microsoft as well, and she reached out to me at Twitter and said, "Hey, I think you're going to be at ISTE. Can we meet?" And so I met up with her at ISTE, and we had a conversation. And who knew that just a couple of months later, I'd be packing up my entire life, moving across the country to live in Seattle, and starting a career at Microsoft. And the only reason I took the job, really, and left this education space, is because I felt like being here at Microsoft would give me a greater platform to help other people. The one thing that I heard a lot of when I was in my district was, "Oh my gosh, I never knew this thing existed," or "This is the best kept secret ever." And I didn't want any secrets to be kept from any educator. I want everybody to feel empowered and have access to the things that they need to make learning successful. And that's not always technology, but a lot of times it is. So I joined the team here, and it's just been a fabulous journey and ride the entire way. And I'm just fortunate enough to be able to see all the great things that I see across the US, but then also work with my peers and colleagues around the globe. So that's my little long story there, but that's my why. It's why I do what I do every day. But what makes me the happiest each day is really seeing students be successful. And I obviously pre-COVID did a lot of traveling, and so I could see that in person. Right now, it's just a lot of seeing social shares online. But I'm looking forward to the day that we can be back in classrooms again.
Yeah, for sure. And I think of the many things that jump out about what you and I both talked about, I think the commonality that we have, and I'm sure everybody watching has as well, is we can all remember that one or those two teachers that inspired us, right? I mean, almost every educator I've ever talked to has those people in their background, in their childhood, that inspired them. So, and feel free, if you're watching, throw that in the comments right now and let us know who they are. Have a shout out. You never know if they're going to see this or watch this, or who knows if they'll ever pick up on it. And that's one of the bummers about being a teacher, is we often don't know the impact that we have on our students until much later, right? When they come back on campus 2, 3, 5, 7 years down the road. And we sometimes don't even
run into them at a car dealership, and they're selling cars, and you're like, "Oh, wait, wow, you're only 12, I'm tell you."
No, it's amazing. And I appreciate your passion, and certainly you have inspired and continue to inspire an entire community of MIE experts. And I know that all of the energy that we experts bring to the group is all to do with how you approach the program and us, and as you so eloquently described, just education in general. So thank you for sharing your passion and celebrating all that with us, for sure.
I definitely thank you guys for getting to do this. I wake up each day and say, like, hey, this is my job. It's pretty awesome. So speaking of celebrations,
absolutely,
I want to celebrate, and we'll continue to celebrate all year long. We recently announced our US MIE expert cohort for the 2020-2021 school year. So for those of you that aren't a part of this community, we definitely want you to become part of this community, and maybe next year you nominate yourself for this. But each year we have an application nomination process that's open you typically open it by May 1st, close it in around mid-July. So that kind of gives you some of the summertime months here in the US to work on that nomination. And then we go through and we look at all the nominations, and you're competing against whoever also is nominating with you. And this community continues to grow each and every year because there are so many great things that are happening. And this year we are super excited to welcome 800, yes, I said that. And some of my colleagues at Microsoft said, are you crazy? 800? And for some context, guys, when we started this program several years back, the original first MIE expert class in the US was 23 educators. So to go from 23 to 800 just in a few years is like crazy. But I am so excited for the learning that's already taking place within this community. This is where everybody's located across the US, so you can kind of see the map. And if you're watching and you live in one of those gray voided states, let's fix that. Let's fill in those colors and get some of those gray states to turn into a colorful spot for us. But really excited to welcome all these people from around the entire United States. And, we're just a small portion of the world. So we are our US MIE expert community, but we are part of a global community as well. And I'm all about global learning and sharing. But like I said, for this show, we're going to focus on our US educators because, it's where we are, and we are going to learn from each other in this community. We also want to welcome, so in addition to our MIE experts, we also have showcase schools. So at Microsoft, we identify lighthouse schools across the US who are doing some really innovative things with teaching and learning in their schools. They all don't look the same. They all don't operate on a similar maybe curriculum or the same curriculum even, but they are all doing things unique in their environments that is very appealing for other people to learn from. So often what we hear from at Microsoft is we'll get ministries of education or global dignitaries come in from different parts of the world, and they'll come to Microsoft and say, hey, can you tell us about a school who, maybe uses some Microsoft solutions that are really doing some awesome things in education. And so through that, we developed the Showcase School program. So we have 39 schools that you see here on this map that are a part of our Showcase School program. These are elite schools being led by school leaders who are all about the learning and the sharing. And so we're excited to welcome our Showcase schools. And a special shout out to Scott. He is an actual faculty member at one of our Showcase schools, which you'll see on the list right there in Santa Margarita Catholic High School in SoCal. So thanks for representing that program too, Scott.
Absolutely.
And lastly, we kicked off a new program this year for schools who want to become a Showcase schools, who are on a journey of transformation. They may be looking for other leaders across the US as well as the world to help inspire them and learn from them, but they have aspirations of true innovation and empowering their students' learning. So this year we've got 24 schools that have come into our incubator program to be networking, have some coaching from other Showcase schools, as well as, building their journey along the education transformation framework. So we're excited to welcome these schools into our incubator pathway to become a Showcase school this year. So shout out for all our experts, our Showcase schools, and our incubator schools. We are so happy to welcome you to the Microsoft Education family.
And it's an amazing community, just an awesome community of inspiring educators, people, as Robyn said, who want to do more, who want to think outside the box. They're focused on the right things in education. And we certainly applaud and welcome everybody to those three groups. And speaking of communities, Robyn, we want to celebrate the entire community of educators. So one of the segments we're going to do on the show is called Epic Educators. And each week, each broadcast, each episode, we want to highlight three examples that we have seen on social media or through an email if somebody sends it to us. We just want to highlight examples of the amazing work being done by educators. So Robyn, I'll let you walk through, I think, three really awesome examples to kick it off this year.
All right. So epic educator number one, shout out to Stephen O'Donnell from Pennsylvania. I want you to take a look at what he said here. And I think we're starting to see this a lot across different opportunities for remote learning. But he basically says that he was just finding it really a challenge to engage his students online. He'd speak, they'd listen, womp womp. It was kind of boring and dreadful. And then all of a sudden he started putting the students in small groups. He gave them channels for their small groups and then gave them a prompt. And then all of a sudden the kids lit up. They turned their cameras on, they turned their mics on, they were laughing together, learning together, sharing experiences. And so he was able to realize that even though struggling in a large group, teaching virtually, that all he needed to do was just alter his instruction just a slight bit, give his students a safer space or a smaller group to learn in, and they were able to flourish. And I think that's what we're seeing resonating a lot is students maybe that even would struggle in a in-person environment with a large classroom. These students are now finding their voice in some of these virtual spaces. So we're super, while this pandemic has given us many challenges, I think there's lots of successes that are coming out from it as well. And it's allowing students of all backgrounds and learning styles to show up in a new way. So shout out, Stephen, for really finding and allowing your students to find their voice.
Number two, I'll lead into this and I'll let Robyn call out some of the MIE experts that are doing some great work. But there's a public group, not created or sponsored by Microsoft, but a public group on Facebook called Microsoft Teams for Education. And you can see almost 52,000 members strong. And the biggest thing I've taken away is you can tell that there are some schools, unlike the incubator and showcase schools, who didn't really think about how they were going to roll technology out. And understandable, we're all just trying to keep our head above water right now. But those of us that work at very successful schools know that professional development and training and so forth are really important. So anyway, there have been a lot of really frustrated teachers that haven't been able to figure out how to attach a form as a quiz in Teams or how to create private channels, things like that. And a small group of our MIE expert friends kind of banded together over the past couple of weeks, and they've been total rock stars in this group, Robyn.
So our epic educator number two here actually is multiple, but we wanted to give a shout out to these experts that are really leading the charge in that group and coaching and helping other educators be successful even when things may seem really frustrating. So shout out to Diane from Pennsylvania, Allie from New York, Amanda also from New York, Julie from Washington, and Jennifer from Utah. So from the East Coast to the West Coast, want to give you guys a epic high five.
And to close it out.
And at last, our epic educator number three is actually one of our MIE experts from Tarrant County Community College, so in our higher ed space, Bhavani Kola. She is really stepping up her game. She has started a YouTube channel. You can get to that right there by that AKA at the bottom of the screen. But we encourage you to check out her YouTube channel. Bhavani has really taken to wanting to help other people, give them tips and successes. So she actually even reached out to us here this week at Microsoft, to myself and Sonia, who oversees one of our worldwide programs in education, and was literally asking, how can I help more? Like, I just want to help people. So for having such a being a helping hand, having a helping heart, Bhavani, thank you so much for your dedication to educators and wanting to help other people learn. So thank you. And I guess I'll give you a raise the roof too. We call that raise the roof for our epic educators.
To all three groups and to everybody, thank you so much for sharing. Continue to share. Please feel free, those of you who are watching the broadcast, share these stories with us. Whether you want to use our hashtag to share this information, email it to us, messages to us. Again, we want to be able to connect with you all in the community and know exactly what's going on and who we can kind of amplify and celebrate as an epic educator. So as we close here, Robyn, I know we're going to talk a lot in the coming episodes about where this show will go, but in particular, I know I'm excited for episode number 2 because we have 2 of my favorite people coming on the show, in Darren and Anthony.
Yes. So on September 29th, we're going to have episode number 2. I feel like it maybe should be like episode 1A because today is just really a kickoff and learning and kind of talking about what's to be expected. But really, they're going to be real episode number 1, I kind of feel like. So Darren Clay and Anthony Newbold, 2 fabulous school leaders from Fulton County in Georgia, which is near the Atlanta area. So we're super excited to have these 2 leaders join us. They're going to talk about what school leadership looks like in 2020, how they are, trying to build a cohesive school year with their teachers, their faculty, as well as their students to ensure that learning still happens, but then that we're also taking care of each other's mental health as well. So looking forward to having Darren and Anthony on our show here in a couple of weeks. If you want to learn from Darren and Anthony, start following them right now on Twitter. Those are their handles there, at Darren Clay EDU and at Newbold EDU. And then definitely join us in a couple of weeks and we'll have them live here on the show. And I promise you'll get to hear their voices more than you will hear ours.
Definitely. Not that they're not loving hearing our voices, obviously, but we certainly want to amplify the amazing experts. And we couldn't think of, 2 better guests to have on to begin with. While we have plenty of options to choose from, these 2 are so well-spoken, so intelligent, so intentional about how they lead and why they lead in particular ways. And I know all of our viewers are going to really enjoy learning from them. If you have never met Darren and Anthony, you're definitely in for a treat on the 29th. So we look forward to having you guys here and to hear how they're leading in 2020 in these crazy, strange times.
All right, so that's what we have for you guys tonight. Super excited to kick this off and officially start hearing from more educators, learning with you guys, and celebrating you all for all the amazing work that you do each day. So I guess we're going to officially sign off now. We'll hope to see you on the show in a couple of weeks, and we'll keep this going. And like Scott said earlier, if you want to be a guest on the show, please reach out to us and let us know. We'll always need to fill our dance card. So cheers to everyone. Have a great night. And the weekend is very near. It's
very close. Very close. Awesome. Thanks, everybody. Thanks, Robyn. Have a good night, everybody.
Night.